The way the world is presently operating is much like a game of chess, with a hierarchy consisting of different pieces. Some are large, but most of them are smaller pieces. Each piece can be likened to the institutions which make up our present social order. The king represents the government. He's the man in charge. In our situation, in the USA, it's supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. But as recent history has demonstrated, there seems to be something not quite right with that statement. The bishop represents religion. Now that's a powerful institution, having a very large influence on our perception of the world around us. The knight represents the military-industrial complex. Not just our soldiers, but all the corporations required to maintain our military presence and economic dominance around the world. The rook, or the castle, represents the commercial media, print, visual, audio, and other sources of entertainment and information run by the for-profit motive. These are the institutions from which most of us form our understanding of what's happening in the world. Then comes the most powerful of the larger pieces, the queen. This piece represents the monetary system. That is, the Federal Reserve Bank and all other institutions which are too big to fail. The power of this piece is well captured by this quote: "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws," by Meyer Amschel Rothschild in 1790. The last piece, but certainly not the least of them, is the pawn, which represents you and me. In our present social hierarchy, there are but a few large pieces and a vast majority of little pieces. In order to have a game of chess, you have to have two sides. On one side, the pieces are white, and on the other side, they're black. We're the white team, of course, because we're the good guys. At least that's what all the big pieces have been telling us since we were little kids, right? The opposite team are presently the terrorists. Not too long ago, it used to be the communists. There were a few different teams to play against back then. The Russians, the Chinese, Koreans, the Vietnamese, the Cubans, Nicaraguans, and many others. Before that, we played against the fascists. And before that, our opponents were the Huns, or the heretics, or so many other factions back through time. It makes no difference what their names are or where they come from. To play the game, there must be an opposing team. So now that you know the game, should we play? It's your move. But wait! Before you make your move, wouldn't it be wise to ask why we are fighting the black pieces, the terrorists? According to what the Rook tells us, the commercial media that is, it's because they hate our freedoms, or because we need to bring democracy to those poor people, or maybe because we need to prevent the threat of weapons of mass destruction or some such thing. These would be good reasons to play the game, if they were true, but recent history has demonstrated that the Rook might not have been telling us the whole story. What a strange name, Rook. I always thought that piece looked more like a castle. Curiously, the dictionary has the following definition for the Rook. Pay close attention to the third meaning. There we go. A European crow, possibly imitated of its raucous voice. It's been used as a disparaging term for people since at least 1508 and was extended in 1577 to mean a cheat, especially at cards or dice. The verb, to defraud by cheating, especially in a game, is first used in 1590. Well, it stands to reason that the Rook is the most appropriate piece to describe the media now, doesn't it? When was the last time you were told the truth by this Rook? Did you get the idea that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Or that there was no connection between Saddam Hussein and the Al-Qaeda network? Or that many of our government officials were caught in a lie by the foreign press? Or did you mostly just hear the constant and overwhelming beat of the war drums? Did the Rook warn you of the housing bubble that had been building for years ahead of the subprime mortgage collapse? Did it lend a platform to the many prominent voices, in government and outside, that kept trying to raise the alarm? Or did you just hear the happy voices chattering on about how great things were? Did the Rook tell you about the coming of peak oil? Did it talk about the many experts and knowledgeable people, or the official government studies warning us of the dire consequences of this event? Has it suggested alternatives which might help us ease our transition through this inevitable period? Or have you just been getting the usual, nothing happening here, folks, just move along kind of talk? Have you been informed about the impending economic disaster looming in the distance? It promises to be even worse than the bursting of the subprime housing bubble. Has the Rook lent a voice to the many experts that are now, as of at least June 2010, screaming that nothing substantial in the financial practices has changed? Or are you getting the happy-go-lucky talk about, the crisis is over, go ahead, invest your money in the market again? Rook. Defrauding by cheating. The perfect piece to describe the media. It's also important to know that the opposing team, whoever they may be, also have their own rook pieces, telling their own pawns that they're the good guys and that we're the bad guys, and therefore they, the pawns, should go ahead and do whatever's necessary to defeat us. The big pieces, for both teams, call it perception management. You got that? The big pieces want to manage what we perceive. That is, what we see as the real world around us. That's what the Rook does. For what purpose, you may ask? Well, to get us all playing the game. Okay, now that you know this, should we play? It's your move. But wait! Before you move, there's something else you should know. Remember, you are represented by the lowly pawn. Do you really know what that word means? I used to think the word was somehow related to peon, which the dictionary defines as any person of low social status, especially one who does work regarded as menial or unskilled. Perhaps it was related to the word peasant, a member of a class of persons, as in Europe, Asia, or Latin America, who are small farmers or farm laborers, again, of low social rank. But it turns out to be something quite different. In chess, it's one of 8 men of one color, and one of the lowest value, usually moved one square at a time, vertically and capturing diagonally. Now the more sinister meaning is for someone who's used or manipulated to further another person's purposes. Interesting, isn't it? Now read that second description again. Someone who is used or manipulated to further another person's purposes. Isn't that the perfect piece to describe our present situation? Freedom, democracy, human rights, peace, justice, fair play, honesty, those are the ideals we are told we're pursuing. But look around. Is that what you see? Or does it seem we're being manipulated for some hidden purpose, to further some agenda which is not our own, and which we're not being told about? Take the time to look around, beyond the smoke and mirrors that the Rooks are presenting to us. Think deep. Your life is real. This is not a rehearsal, and your decisions are important. So now that you know the game, should we play? It's your move. But wait! Before you move, you should remember something that's very obvious. Life is not a chess game. We are free living beings. We do not have to be the pawns which are sacrificed so the big pieces can further their own agendas. We could play some other game, where cooperation, friendship, and helpfulness are the primary goals. We really don't need to bother with the big pieces. They're collapsing under the weight of their own corruption. Ease yourself out of their clutches as much as you can. And when you find that new game that you want to play, be sure to play with your neighbors, your family, and your friends. And to remember that they are your real community.